Okay, g'day there folks. We want to create this part here. This is for the F1 in Schools car competition, and we're looking at creating a part like this. Now it's a little bit wonky, but we'll fix that up later, but it's essentially, it sits on the car at the top. So you've got a car like that, that's how it'll sit. Now it won't have that slot as you see there. The slot's been carved in the wrong spot, and but it'll look like that. It'll sit on top of the car and it'll blend in, and it has the CO2 gas canister fitting in there, and it's a fairly aerodynamic kind of shape. Rocket sitting on top of the F1 in Schools car. Okay, so let's go on, let's make this. That's the sort of model, and to start off with, we're going to create a sketch, and the sketch will look a little bit like this. So we're going to revolve that shape that you see over there, and I'll click on this little setup in the setup box here. It squares everything to a right angle for us so we can see it clearly. That's the shape we're going to create, and we're going to revolve that about that central axis that I'm pointing to with my cursor, and that'll produce the bullet shape with the cavity inside for the CO2 cylinder. So let's start. Alright, we'll go for new. I better click that first, hadn't I? Okay, so let's click a new shape. We'll make it a part. It's fine. We'll call it bullet. Okay. Here we go. Alright, let's orientate this. For a start, we're going to do our sketch on this plane. So I selected my left cursor and click sketch. Now to set that to the front face, use this little icon up here under the setup tab. That brings it right around so we can look at it straight on. Now I've got some dimensions over here. We're basically going to use two rectangles. First rectangle we'll create will be 10mm by 55mm. So let's just make that one, first rectangle. Now to give it dimensions, I'll click on normal. Remember we said it was going to be 55mm tall. And I'll double click on that again, click enter, remember to do that. And the width of it, of this particular rectangle, is going to be 10mm. Pardon me, I've got a bit of a cough, so I might do some coughing here. Alright, now we'll do another rectangle, which will be a total of 80mm tall, and we'll start from here again. So another rectangle. Bit of a delay going on. To wait. There we go. Alright. Okay, so let's play with this one and give it some dimensions. Waiting. Okay, so that'll be the height. We want the height to be 80, and we want the width, if we let middle mouse button scrolling to be able to enlarge it, the shape. I want this total width here to be 15mm. Good. Alright, having done all that, it's now time to produce a curve. Now the curve, I want to go from the top here, so I'm going to use the spline tool. It's this one here, and I'm going to select points. This point, let's say that point, and then I've got to carefully select another point, so I'll use this one. And middle mouse button to get rid of that little tail. Alright, now the delete segment tool here to start removing the lines that I don't want. I don't want that line. Don't want this line. I don't want this section here. I'll have to do that twice because here it is. I don't want this section down here. Alright, so now I should have that outlined. I'll just click feature requirements, it tells me that it has all the geometric entities that I need, specific requirements. That's all ticked, so it's looking good. Now next thing I'm going to do is make sure that it'll shade the closed loop. Yeah. So now if that shades, it means it's an entire shape suitable for me to rotate, or I should say to revolve. So that's all done. I'm happy with that. I'm going to revolve it. So I've got to accept the sketch first, make sure Creo knows that I'm happy with it. So I click that, and then I use the revolve function up here on the left. Click on revolve, and Creo will ask me about what axis do you want to do that. I'm going to highlight this axis here, and I've revolved my bullet shape. There it is, just as we want it. Alright, now next stage is I want to create the two wings on the side, and also want to create that flat on the bottom. So I'm going to accept that, and I want to again look at this object from the front or from the back, the way I am doing now, and I'm going to machine a flat across here. So I'm going to do another sketch because I want it to actually grip onto the top surface of my car. So I'm going to create a sketch. I'm going to do this using a rectangle and the extrude function. So I've selected this back area here, this plane that sits up against the back edge of the bullet shape to do my extrude on. Clicking sketch. And now again my trusty rectangle is going to come in handy, and I'm going to, I'll move that around a little bit so I can see a bit more clearly. I'm going to create a rectangle which is going to, yeah, that'll do me, like that. It only has to be big enough to cover that bottom section that I want to extrude out. See that? I'm now going to extrude this. So I'll accept that rectangle shape, then I'm going to click extrude, and Creo has obligingly started to extrude it, but I want to remove material, not add material. So I use this little button up here, remove material, and as I drag the button through, you can see it takes a slice out of the base of my bullet shape, my rocket. Beg your pardon. Alright, and that'll make it sit nice and flat on the surface that I want. So click OK. Alright, next thing is to put the wings on. Now I've got to decide where I'm going to put those. So I'm going to do this, I'm going to create an axis. And I left click on axis over here, and I want this axis to go through that plane. I won't create the axis. I won't do that. What I will do instead of that is I'm going to create another extrusion, and I'm going to mirror it instead. So let's do that. Let's create another sketch, and we'll do it again on this plane here. Okay, click sketch, which is good. Now we'll orient ourselves towards the front. Oops, not that way. We want exactly the other way around. So let's find ourselves, it's not the back. Is it the bottom? Yep, it's the bottom. Good. Alright, now I'm going to do a rectangle, and my rectangle is going to be in here. I'll wait for my computer to catch up with me. Alright, like that. Yep. Alright, so I'll click OK. Now I'm going to extrude this shape. I don't mind that. That's probably not a bad distance to extrude it. So I'll click OK. And then I'm going to round these edges to make them a bit more smooth. So let's use the round function up here, and I'll click on that edge, and this edge here. Right, now this edge I want to have a bit larger round, so we'll make it go, say, all the way like that. Okay, and I'm I'm happy with that, with all those edges, so we'll go OK. So that's done one. Now I ought to be able to use the mirror function now to be able to select this and create another one. So if I highlight that object by clicking on it, mirror function becomes available. I click mirror. Mirror will ask me a plane or an intent datum plane to mirror about. Well, I'm going to use this center plane. And click OK. And there it is on the other side. Now it hasn't given me my rounds, so I'll have to do them. So let's do them again. 1, 2, and 3 here. This one of course is enlarged a little bit. We can actually spin it out a bit more if we want. Let's make it a bit like that. Alright, so click OK. And I actually want to mirror this round. I want to see if I can do it. So let's give it a go. So let's select this shape. Maybe that shape. That round. I did it. There it is. That shape there, can't mirror it. No, unfortunately. Okay. You get the idea. That's just about completed. Alright, so there it is. Now, to put this onto the car, we need to open up the model of the car. So let's open up the model of the car first. And we'll open a part, an existing part. Let's try this one, racing car body part 4. Let's open it up. Alright, there it is. Now it's got a flat top which suits me fine. So I'm going to create an assembly. So it's going to be a new assembly. Call it that, that's fine. And there it is. Now to assemble parts I have to bring them in on the assemble function here. So if I click on that function there, RocketCar racing car body 4 was the part that I wanted. Click it, there it is, it's been brought in for me. And now let's move this setting, rather than having automatic as the joining setting, let's use to coincident, which means to be exactly on the same plane as. I'm happy with that where it is. So let's bring in our next part, which is that rocket part 2, I think it was called. I do think that's what it was. Yeah, I can't remember what I called it now. Let's try that. Alright. Yeah, looks about right, doesn't it? Okay, looks pretty good. There it is. Alright, so let's get it moving in around about the right setting. Line it up a little bit. So I'll go in a touch. Okay, now we see how there's the flat section. I need that to be roughly facing down there. So if I highlight on this object here, highlight on the particular part of that world map, as I call it, and spin it around. So in that case I highlighted on the area that I wanted to spin it. If I wanted to go up and down, which I'm going to in a minute, I can use this. This will give me a vertical spin that I'm highlighting here now. See that? Lean it over, and to grab the whole object, grab the middle, highlight the center middle button, the middle round sphere, and you can bring it up. And let's see if we've got that center mouse button now to move around. See if we've got that roughly in position. It's getting there. Alright, I'll move it around a bit more just to make it easier for myself. Say around about there. Yeah. And now I'm going to get these surfaces to start to join to each other. So I'm going to select this surface here. Yep. And there's my little sticky little spider's web coming out. You'll see it in a minute at the end of the cursor when the computer catches up. There it is. See the sticky little spider's web? Oh, you will in a minute. There it is. Okay. I want that, and I'm center mouse button clicking now, to join to the top surface, or that flat that I've created on the bottom of the rocket. Almost there. I'm waiting for my computer to catch up. It's making me pause. Okay. Yes. Now, because while we're waiting, I'll just talk to you a little bit. Because these two surfaces have to sit flat on top of each other, there's nothing that particularly locks it and locates it. So we're going to have to make ourselves. Okay, there we go. So there's the second surface. So now the object is partially constrained. Now, if I were, let's have a look at it from a different angle now. It's sitting fairly well the way I want it to. Okay, but it's not quite. See how it's sitting over the edge there? Down here? I don't want it to sit over the edge, I want it to be up against it. So let's give it another check now. We want it to be able to be these planes, so the back plane and the rear lip of this circular opening here, we want these two surfaces to be exactly in line. So we want them to be parallel. So if we use the word parallel here and click parallel for our next setting up the top, and I select the two surfaces, this surface here, and I say I want it to be parallel with that surface, straight away they move into position, and the object is still partially constrained, so it must still have another possibility of movement. Now you notice how it's not exactly even, it's not exactly in the right spot, it's kind of like in the middle. Or I should say it's not in the middle, we want it to be in the middle. So let's select another, we can use a distance measurement. Okay, so let's try distance measurement now. We'll make this a little bit smaller, and I want this center plane, the distance between here and this plane, which is the middle, splitting the middle of my bullet rocket shape, I want them to be coincident, and I've now got it exactly in the circle, exactly in the center. So I'm happy with that. It's all looking good. Now, alright, well I'm happy to leave that partially constrained at the moment, but you can see my rocket is in position and ready to go. And this is quite suitable to be machined from the long edge with the spindle of the router bit to be driving down and cutting out this shape. It will be able to do so quite easily. Alright, okay. That's all there is. Thank you very much.